Senator Lankford, you're recognized for your questions.
Chairman, thank you. Secretary Mayorkas, thanks for being here. You've had a long couple of weeks and getting a chance to be able to testify. Obviously, there are a lot of folks that have talked to you both today and before about this disinformation governing board. There's some obvious questions and been some problems with the rollout on this. I'm not going to go into a lot of details to tell you, but I will tell you I have some major concerns, obviously, and part of our concerns is just a lack of information. So I just want to be able to bounce through a couple things. Before I jump into that, I do want to say this as well. Last year in our budget hearing, which was in July last year, I asked you some different questions for the record. Your team actually sent me the answers for those questions for the record 3 hours ago. So I'm going to give you a couple things because it may take 8 months to be able to get the answer back on it. And by the way, some of those were yes or no questions on it as well. So I do appreciate the answer on it very much, but let me give you just a couple of things. Is there a written mission statement, a strategy document, a principles, a charter, a job description on this disinformation governing board? Are there written documents to explain what it is and what it is not, what they're doing?
If I can preface my answer with an apology.
Thank you.
Both to you, to Ranking Member Portman, and to this committee with respect to responses to requests for the record. We need to be swifter in providing this committee with responses, and I extend that apology to the entire committee. There is a charter. You are correct, Senator, that the rollout with respect to this working group was suboptimal, and we need to provide more information not only to this committee and Congress, but to the American public. There is a charter, and principles are being developed. And what this working group seeks to do is actually develop guidelines, standards, guardrails to ensure that the work that has been ongoing for nearly 10 years does not infringe on people's free speech rights, rights of privacy, civil rights and civil liberties. It was quite disconcerting, frankly, that the disinformation work that was well underway for many years across different administrations was not guided by guardrails.
So let me say this then. We will want those written documents, all those principles, as soon as we possibly can, job descriptions and the task on this, because it's left undefined. We have no idea what this is. So we want to be able to get that. You've also said that they'll have guardrails or already have guardrails in this. Can I have a copy of that, and when can I get that?
No, one of the primary goals of this working group is actually to develop those guardrails to protect the rights.
Got it. So it needs to be, here's my challenge initially on this. Obviously, it's completely undefined. It's just sitting out there. The FBI already does this. The State Department already does this. So the State Department identifies already foreign disinformation that's coming into us. The FBI is already looking for disinformation that could lead to terrorism, harm, all those kind of things. We're trying to figure out this DHS new invention on what it does, and here's our problem. Let me show you this. This is not going to shock you on this. The leader that you appointed to be able to put into this task, when we just do a simple question to say, who is this person on it, what we get back is political statements that she's made, for instance, on the Steele dossier, which we all know was disinformation. That was a Clinton campaign document that was very engaged with the Russians on it. She actually, when it comes up, she's going to Chris Steele and saying, I listened to this last night. Chris Steele, yes, that Chris Steele, provides some great historical context about the evolution of disinformation, worth a listen. Or when people made a comment publicly about Chris Steele, she responded back on Twitter, April 22nd of 2020, you're aware that the Steele dossier is a Republican opposition research project. Okay, that's clearly disinformation on this. She's also made the public statements, October the 14th, let me switch this over, October the 14th, 2020, in an AP article, she's quoted saying the Hunter Biden laptop, we view it as a Trump campaign product, and then said the emails don't need to be altered to be part of an influence campaign. Voters deserve the context, not a fairy tale about a laptop repair shop. So we have a practical question here. We don't have a definition of what it is. We don't have boundaries of what it does. The FBI already does this. The State Department already does this. And the person you tap to lead the disinformation campaign has been outspoken on TikTok and Twitter with disinformation, specifically on election issues. So we're responding to something that's unknown, and what we do know is disinformation coming from it. Why should we not have suspicions on this?
Can I, I'll say two things. Number one, Senator, you mentioned that the Department of State and the Federal Bureau of Investigation already do this work. So does the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security has been doing this work for years in addressing disinformation that poses a threat to the security of our homeland, whether it's Russia in the cyber domain, whether it's disinformation with respect to the resources that FEMA provides to the most vulnerable people in the wake of a natural disaster, whether it's addressing the smuggling organizations and their disinformation, not to U.S. persons, but to vulnerable migrants who receive disinformation and are goaded into coming to the border under false pretenses. That work has been underway for years and years. What this group is to do is to ensure that that work is performed in a way consistent with the law. It does not infringe on freedom of speech, rights of privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties. It is going to establish what should have been established years ago: standards, definitions, guidelines, and policies.
Well, we will look forward to getting all the written information on that. I appreciate that very much to be able to get it out. You testified last week about operational control of the southern border, and you testified that we do have operational control of the southern border. What we didn't get was your definition. Obviously, we look at this and say 221,000 people were encountered just in March illegally crossing the border. Another 66,000 people were seen crossing the border that the Border Patrol couldn't actually get to because they were taking care of the 221,000 people they did have. But you stated in your testimony, we do have operational control of the southern border. Can we get a copy of what your department uses as the definition of operational control?
Well, actually, there's a statutory definition which provides, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll double check to make sure of my accuracy before this committee, is that operational control is if no individual and no controlled substance passes through our border. So under that strict definition, this country has never had operational control, but obviously a layer of reasonableness must be applied here. And looking at that definition through the lens of reasonableness, we dedicate now 23,000 personnel to the border. We are surging increased personnel, facilities, and other methods of support. And in my opinion, operational controls means maximizing the resources we have to deliver the most effective results.
I would just say over 250,000 people that cross the border illegally in 1 month is not operational control. We're going to disagree on that pretty strongly.
Hey, Senator Lankford. Senator Hassan, I need to step out to vote shortly. Senator Hassan, you'll have the gavel, and you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Senator Peters, and thank you and Ranking Member Portman for this hearing. And Secretary Mayorkas, thank you for coming before the committee today to discuss critical resources that are needed to protect the homeland.